The thing that's different now, and it's almost brought me to tears in this interview, as I look in your eyes now, and I see a deeper soul.
Mm-hmm.
This has touched you.
Yeah.
And it's changed you.
It has. It has.
This has not been a lost moment on you.
No.
You are looking me. You're not looking me in the eyes. You're looking me in the soul.
Right.
You are looking at every moment as precious.
Yeah.
What can I learn? What can I do? How can I be better?
I agree.
And God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we listen twice as much as we talk. I want to thank you for being you.
Thank you, John.
And for being a friend to communities. I know you're giving back. Your philanthropy continues at Delta in spite of all of this.
Yeah.
Your community campaigns, your employees giving time to community continues.
Mm-hmm.
The 100,000 people who work for Delta, the 50,000 people who cut it a break, are all contributing to this local and national economy.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, my friend, the Buckhead Mercedes, black owners, and buying some cars over there. They're going to restaurants. Because you've given them confidence to stay engaged in the economy.
Right.
And those things don't get acknowledged. Mm-hmm. And I want to just thank you for how you lead and not just what you lead. Mm-hmm. And personally, I want to thank you for giving me confidence to wear tennis shoes with a suit.
Best thing we've learned, right?
Now I look cool.
Good afternoon, Delta family. Today we are honored to have Ed joined by John Hope Bryant to continue their chat from the Hope Global Forum and discuss economic empowerment and inclusion in our final Let's Talk About It town hall for the year. We'll spend the second portion of the town hall taking questions from you, but right now we're excited to turn things over to Ed and John.
Well, thank you, Kira, and John, welcome back.
Honored to be here. Honored.
You interviewed me last time.
That's right.
For your forum.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to get the chance to return the favor and interview you a little bit as to the year we've been through, your take on it, and where we're going. But for everyone that doesn't know John, John's the busiest guy I know, and he's a dear friend, which is number one on my list. But he's a philanthropist, he's an author, he's the chairman of a group called Operation Hope that he has founded, which is the largest financial inclusion and empowerment organization, nonprofit, that I'm aware of, helping the disadvantaged in the world. I brought my notes because you do so many things. It's hard for me to keep up with you. He's also the chairman and chief executive officer of Bryant Group Ventures and the Promise Home Companies, the largest for-profit, minority-controlled owners of institutional quality, single-family residential rental homes in the U.S., and he's co-founder of Global Dignity. And above all of that, he's one of the best guys I know. I mean, he's a sincere individual, focused on making a difference in the world. And I think as we draw the year to a close, I thought John would be just an ideal guest to bring on as we continue our series of discussing the topics of inclusion, diversity, equity, the reckoning that we've all been through this year, and then the hope that you always bring as we look out into the new year. So thank you for being here, John.
I'm honored to be with you, who I would describe as the George Clooney of the airline industry. Sexy, cool, smart, ahead of the curve, who again gave me permission to wear very cool shoes with a suit. I say that jokingly, but I'm also serious in the sense that every business has an emotional culture attached to it, and for a lot of folks, that's been putting their head in the sand. You haven't had to lay off one person. That's unprecedented. You've got money in the bank. The Delta air is some of the cleanest, safest air that my wife and I have experienced in this whole pandemic. It's safer to be on one of your planes than it is to be walking out in the streets of Atlanta. Maybe folks should actually quarantine in your planes. It might be a better deal. But once I hit that curb at the airline, I just feel better. I know I'm safe. I know my family's safe. And one could argue that you're doing your job. But the part that sort of makes you a little strange to me, strange in a good way, and it's also amplified in people like Tim Mapes, Joanne Smith, I think it's Kara, if I'm saying her name right. Kara, your Chief Diversity Inclusion Officer, and so many heroes and sheroes within Delta. The thing that I'm fascinated with you is you remind me of Robert Woodruff. And I'm going to do this quickly because I want to cover a lot of ground with you in this conversation, but this is important. In the 60s, Robert Woodruff was the CEO, 50s, of Coca-Cola. And he had retired and was on a shooting expedition. And Dr. King had won the Nobel Peace Prize and was en route from Norway back to Atlanta and had stopped off in New York and was trying to get a meeting with President Johnson at the time. It's a whole nother story. And Andrew Young, my mentor, our friend, was with him, whom you named a playmaster, who's on your board. What they didn't know was that there was a brouhaha in Atlanta. The business community here did not want to honor Dr. King. They called him a rebel rouser, a troublemaker, disruptor. And the mayor went to the CEO of Coca-Cola, interesting, for help. And the CEO of Coca-Cola then, I think it was J. Paul Austin, I believe, went to Woodruff, who was the sort of the elder statesman, former CEO. We need help. He got all the business leaders together in his office, and he said, now let me explain something to you, as we say in my neighborhood. Not explain, let me explain it to you. We are the largest supply chain company in the world, he said. This man just won the most important award in the world. If you don't want to honor this man, that's fine. We're going to move out of this little backward city and go someplace where people have got some sense. Because obviously y'all don't. And by the way, I think most of you are our vendors or our partners, or I think we finance with you, and I think that, well, we buy stuff from you, and I'll let you guys sort it out. And within 2 weeks, the ballroom was packed. You couldn't, all the tickets were sold. It was oversold, the people standing against the wall. That's what the world saw, Ed. But they didn't see that Woodruff leaned in and used his balance sheet, his business plan, his moral authority to change how we did business. And in my opinion, that's what you're doing with Delta. You lead with your values. You lead with your integrity. You're the same person privately, I had dinner with you a few days ago, as you are publicly. You're authentic. Not perfect. No one's perfect. In fact, perfect is sort of boring. But you're imperfect in the most authentic way that I trust.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're kind. I love you too, my brother. Let me.
You're my brother from another mother.
Exactly. That's what we say.
And you're so cool. I'm gonna make you an honorary black man too. So, look, he's just turning red. See, it's working.
Exactly. You bring so much. We could talk for hours, and unfortunately, we only have an hour to go through this. Yeah. And I want to spend most of our time talking about the financial inclusion, because wellness for us here has been what this year has been about: taking care of people, protecting their health, protecting their safety, protecting their mental health. We know we've had some real challenges. Yeah. We all have in society dealing with this year, getting people to feel safe around the topic of inclusion and diversity and opportunity, and financial inclusion, because the financial instability in the world today is marked. And I think when you think about how vulnerable we sit as a society, those that were more vulnerable going into the pandemic are incredibly more vulnerable now going through that, including some of our own family, some of our own employees within Delta. But I'd like to spend just a few minutes before we go there, John, talking about how we got here as a nation, your perspective. I've been talking to a lot of people about it. I'd like to get your perspective, because I know you've got a view of how we got here over the last 400 years. Yeah,
and I think I can do, thank you, Ed. I think I can do 400 years of history in about 4 minutes.
Okay.
But before I say that, I want to cap the last thing I said by talking about this moment also. I think we're sitting in a moment in history right now, but history doesn't feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. But that doesn't mean the moment we're in is actually not, in fact, historic. Tim Mapes is a civil rights history buff, and he knows that Dr. King lived in this city for 13 years, went to parent-teacher night, was on your planes, went to boring staff meetings. You saw him at the grocery store. Every day was not I have a dream and some glorious thing. He did that speech 100 times before the March on Washington. Most things were just routine. But that didn't mean the moment was not pregnant with opportunity for change. And Ambassador Young on my way here told me to remind you that he thinks that Atlanta can't recover unless Delta recovers. And he didn't mince words. He said, I don't think Atlanta can succeed again, and we will, without Delta succeeding. 110 million flights in 2019 before all this happened, which means you're the largest, busiest airport in the world, and busier than Beijing. And you are driving all of that. And you were head of diversity before it was a thing as an airline. 400 years in 4 minutes. So our story, life on Earth is about 5 billion years old. 4 billion, the world's 5 billion years old, Earth. We've had life 4 billion years. Of that, human life, 200 million years. Of that, people with a language that we shared, 50 million years. In North America, where we are now, about 15 million years. We all emerged from what we call Africa and then went to different places, which makes racism scientifically stupid, by the way. We're all the same. The sun just sort of changed directions, which is why we have different complexions. It's ridiculous. The word white was actually created in the last 400 years.
You told me that the other night.
Of all this history.
Yeah.
And so, early in the 1600s, you had, interesting entrepreneurs who involved in a pretty horrible version of capitalism, slavery, bring folks from Africa. Now, you don't bring folks from Africa because you don't like them. You bring them here because they are a value proposition, and we were agricultural geniuses of the land, then and now. They brought us here to work the land that no one else could work in ways that no one else could work it for longer than anybody else would work it. And we did an incredible job. And so much so that I believe this is the largest reverse transfer of wealth, slavery, in, I would argue, modern world history, because we're the largest economy in the world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. By the way, I love math because it doesn't have an opinion. I'm not talking about race here. I'm not talking about religion or politics. This is just math. So we get here, and in early 1600s, you had some poor whites who came from Britain and poor blacks, and we were all indentured servants before slavery existed. And the problem was that blacks and whites were getting along together. And they didn't like how the big man was treating them. So they ran off together, blacks and whites, poor blacks and poor whites. And when they were caught and brought back, the overseer said, we have a problem here. They're getting along, and they could overtake us or something. So they held a trial, and they gave the poor whites 2 more years of indentured servitude, and they gave the black life. And that was the beginning of what we call slavery. But more importantly in this story, the rich whites told the poor whites, you're white like us. Not rich like us. Not wealthy like us, because rich is money and wealth is mindset. But you're white like us. You're with us. And you're over them, by the way. And the poor, oh, really? Oh, okay, we have a role. And we've been bamboozled ever since. The word white is a made-up word. Didn't exist in the Middle East, didn't exist in Europe, didn't exist in Latin America, didn't exist all the places that you travel. For all of this history, that was about class. It was about nobility. It was about bloodlines. It was about money and power, as it has always been. And we've been having this stupid conversation ever since. And so you fast forward to the end of slavery. What you have now, I'm working on this plantation, and the harder I work, the bigger the house for the big man gets, because he gets my labor. That's not American. That's what makes the African American experience unique from everybody else's. We worked our tails off, but we never got the benefit of our labor in the form of compensation. Okay, then we couldn't create capital because we were capital, traded and financed, insured. In fact, we were more valuable than land, Ed, because a crop could go bad in Alabama, but you could take a slave who was on your books and trade them to Tennessee or wherever And we were literally more valuable than railroads. Now you fast forward to 1865, you have Abraham Lincoln, who creates a Freedmen's Bank, charter to teach free slaves about money. You have 40 Acres and a Mule, which was a pilot program of 18,000 plots of land for 4 million slaves. So it was a pilot program meant to be expanded. Lincoln was killed the month after he created the bank. And it was said the failure of that bank did more to set free slaves in America back than 10 more years of slavery. Here in Savannah, 2 hours from here, you had 20 ministers asked, what do you want after slavery? They said, we want land. Not a welfare program, not a handout. Land we want to do for ourselves. It's what my white friends would say. It's what my Asian friends would say. It's what any reasonable person would say.
Right.
Fast forward now to the first time we talked about money again, 1960s. Not a banker, not a businessman, not an entrepreneur, a pastor, Dr. King. The Poor People's Campaign, which was about poor whites and everybody else, because there's more poor whites now and then than anybody else. And now you fast forward to today. I consider this a third Reconstruction right now. And I just explained why you have blacks who are the 10% of the net worth of their white counterparts. 41% of us own a home versus 75%, 73% of our white counterparts. 96% of all black businesses don't have an employee.
That's remarkable.
Did you guys hear that? 9% of all businesses in America, black businesses, 96% of them don't have an employee, a self-employment project. You can't create generational wealth unless you're compounding. And so this is where we are. And our experience was different, and I think that has held America back. So that was the history. It's also helped my poor white friends back who were never taught to be industrious. It's held a lot of people back, and we're arguing over stupid stuff. And I believe that diverse economies are progressive ones.
Absolutely.
Atlanta's the most diverse city in the southern states. We're the most economically prosperous. We argue over who gets the money, not what color you are. Right. That's why we beat Memphis, and I love Memphis, I love Birmingham, but they could have been us.
Yeah.
But they argued over stupid stuff, race, who got over whites only, water fountains, it's stuff that doesn't matter. And we have the right argument. We're the South Coast. And you have the East Coast and the West Coast, who are also diverse and economically prosperous. So I just have a vision that social justice today is achieved through the lens of economics, ownership, and opportunity first.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. So building on that background, you've launched Operation Hope. Involved, and I'm also pleased to be on your board of advisors.
That's right.
For Operation Hope, and thrilled to have spoken at your forum over the last several years.
Yeah.
We are working hard to bring Operation Hope into our workplace, and I know we're starting to make some inroads, because I know so many of our people can use the financial literacy, education, know-how, training to improve their own security. And the awareness and the tools that you're providing. Talk to me about Operation Hope. What is it, and what are you hoping to be able to do with it inside of Delta?
Yes, before I say that, let me back up, because I think it's bridging. We want to be a bridge at this time, Ed. This country shouldn't be about red and blue, or black and white, or rich and poor, or urban and rural. We're better together.
Amen.
And it benefits everybody else outside of America when we fight. Everybody wants to be an American but Americans. All we can do is pick at each other, right? And those outside of America love when we get in this ridiculous food fight with each other. The reality is that 5 years ago almost, my poor white friends rioted at the ballot box because they were frustrated. 4 months ago, my poor and struggling black friends protested, and in some cases rioted in the streets because they were frustrated. Rioting doesn't work. It's not productive. You're not benefiting because your neighbor, you don't get any welfare because you're blaming your problems on your neighbor, right? And so none of that works, and division doesn't work. Bridge building works. We're all one family. And this work that I want to do, and I want to again thank Joanne Smith and her team for leading this effort. We are now announcing an expanded partnership with you. We started with your call center, where we had
right here in Atlanta.
Right here in Atlanta, doing financial well-being and financial coaching and counseling. And I think the best way to describe the power of what we're doing is to talk about this through the lens of a couple of your employees. Now, you didn't know I was going to do this, but I'd like to.
Yeah, go for it.
I was on a plane September of 2019, before COVID, and I was talking to one of your flight attendants, Heather. I won't say her last name. I don't have permission to say her last name. Hopefully she's watching. She sent me this note afterwards. This is why I love my job so much. I truly believe God puts people in your life at the right time and place. What you do as a philanthropist makes a difference to those most vulnerable. Thank you for putting your ideas into action. We come from all over the world, all with different stories and struggles, she said, smiling and welcoming everyone. I would bet that most flight attendants probably struggle day to day with money. She's Caucasian, by the way. It's very important because the next example I have is someone who's black. This is middle class Caucasian, all right? So this is not race, all right? I would bet that most flight attendants probably struggle day to day with money, and that most aren't able to save for emergencies or accidents. Most Americans, 70%, don't have $40 for an unplanned event. We fly away from our families, even if there are disasters, natural or self-made. To be educated and shown how to plan for those moments would eliminate one less stress and guilt off our plate. We don't have the typical 9-to-5 job or the opportunities to be home every night for dinner. Life as a flight attendant can be mentally and emotionally draining and rewarding. I know many flight attendants that struggle with financial well-being. When I first got this job, I was so excited. It opened my eyes to the world. I'm from a small town in Montana, she said. However, I don't take into account how much it would cost me about things I don't know about. I have only been a flight attendant for 5 years. In those years, my life has changed. We all face uphill battles with our day-to-day lives. 5 years ago, I was a wife with 3 beautiful children. I'm gonna go here because I don't want to say her personal news. The thought of having to pay my bills or even know how much the car payment was each month gave me anxiety. I now sit with $30,000 in debt because I stuck my head in the sand instead of facing my anxiety head on. I know now that with knowledge, there is power. Mm-hmm. I'm a single mom with full custody of my daughters. I'm now, I'm now relying on my job to guide and teach me about my biggest anxiety, and yet I want to stick my head in the sand. I know I'm not the only flight attendant out there that needs a hand up and not a handout. I tell my story because I heard similar stories as I was going through my struggle. Financial independence changes what you are able to do, whether it be spending the time with your family, hobbies. My best hobby is through Delta, traveling, giving to your communities, giving back to your communities, et cetera, et cetera. If you can get Ed or any of the leadership team to partner with Operation Hope, giving access to us and our families, this valuable tool would be so appreciated. I will be pursuing more information, not just for myself, but for my daughter that rely on me. I want them to have the information they need to be independent women.
That's cool.
Capable, prepared, and ready to make great financial decisions. Heather, this is your day because Ed and Joanne listened to you. And today we announced that we are expanding the Hope Inside the Workplace model with a model employer and a model company, not just for those in Atlanta, but available to all of those at Delta. We're moving credit scores 54 points in 6 months, 120 points in 24 months.
That's amazing.
Nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. Mm-hmm. And we're helping people increase their savings, like $490 in 8 months, reducing that stress. Number one cause for heart attacks, mm-hmm. Stress. Number one cause for stress is money. People are shamed to admit what she just did.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. And can I give you one last testimonial?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this one is from a success story. She happens to be African American. This one's really funny. This is a coach. I met Melvina Jones. She gave us permission. And she admitted that she didn't want to meet with me. This is my financial coach. She confessed that a coworker had booked her appointment for her. She then shared that she was happy renting her townhome and didn't see much value in buying her own home. I paused, took a breath, and asked her one question. So you're okay with paying someone else's equity? In response to her puzzled look, I added, when you make a rent payment, you are lowering the balance on the landlord's mortgage. Wouldn't you rather make payments of your own mortgage and build your own equity? She said yes. Less than 2 hours later, coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous, by the way. Less than 2 hours later, Melvina received a text from her landlord saying he wanted to sell the townhouse. He offered that she could buy it or move out within a couple months. Melvina's credit score was 578. Outstanding revolving debt was $8,000 and change. Credit utilization was minimal. In other words, what she had access to. I guess 2 months later, Melvina's credit score was 688.
Wow.
Outstanding revolving debt went down to $2,000. Our credit utilization is 86%, up from 4%. She moved her credit score 110 points in 90 days. And on April 12th of last year, she closed on her home, and she's now building equity of her own.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
To you. I mean, you and Joanne, I mean, you just changed her life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So how does this work? I know we're going to start a pilot over at the Atlanta airport,
Yep.
Particularly with our operational frontline leaders, starting to educate them so that then we can bring more of our team into this. Because my guess is the majority of our employees at Delta, and we're very blessed at Delta, and we've had great profit sharing and great success over time. This year's been hard on us.
$2 billion last year, I think.
1.6,
Yeah.
Exactly right. But at the same time, this year's gotten our heads snapped back
Yeah.
to focus on issues like this.
Yeah.
What are we going to go do over at the Atlanta airport?
So first thing we need to do is everybody needs to acknowledge that there's no shame to have a problem, in having a problem. My mom and dad divorced over money. My dad beat my mother over money. I was 5 years old watching that. We owned an 8-unit apartment building, our own home, a cement contracting business, a nursery business. We owned a gas station, and we lost it all. Because my dad was too prideful. Ambassador Young has this great quote, men and women fail for 3 reasons, arrogance, pride, and greed. My dad was not arrogant, but he was full of pride. He wasn't greedy, but he was full of pride. And he wouldn't ask my mother for help. My mother was a financial genius in the house. She was financially literate. And my mom has bought and sold 7 homes, working an hourly job at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft, now Boeing Aircraft. Interesting connection, right? Worked an hourly job, and she's financially independent. My dad died penniless, and I took care of him after 54 years in business. And my dad never wanted to acknowledge that there was a problem. He just put his head in the sand. And like Heather, he didn't lift it up. And what my story to everybody is that I've been where you've been. I was homeless for 6 months of my life. My credit score was in the 500s. Now I've got an American Express Black Card, and I roll like Tim Mapes. And you can live this dream. My mother owned 7 homes. I own 700. I own 700 homes, rental homes. You can do this, but you've got to acknowledge you have a problem. 70% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. Most folks watching this have too much month at the end of their money. Yeah. Okay, let's acknowledge that. Okay, a saint is a sinner that got up. Call my people. They're all certified with 33 federal government credentials, HUD certified, SBA certified, all that. And let's have a conversation. Okay, now let's look at your credit report. Easy win. On most credit reports, it is an error. If you haven't checked your credit in 3, 6 months or a year, you guarantee there's an error. My people identify it. Is that yours? I don't know what that is. Great. The law states silver rights is what I call this, silver rights, economics and ownership opportunity. We write a letter to the credit bureaus. Either they confirm it within 30 days or they must remove it. 9 times out of 10, they can't confirm it yet. They remove it. 40-point pop in your credit score. Wow. What does that do to your self-esteem? What does that do to the confidence, the belief, right? Absolutely. Shoulders go back. Okay. People, I've gone from 580 to 620. I've gone from 620 to 660. What next is what people say. We then find a charge-off. That means you got divorced, you lost your job before Delta, whatever, and it's still sitting there. We know that charge-off. 10 years ago, it was AT&T. They sold it to somebody else, sold it to Joe's Finance Company for 5 cents on the dollar. We know this. We call Joe's Finance Company. Mrs. Jones is looking for you. We're looking for her. She wants to settle her debt. Okay, it's a $1,000 debt. We want $100 because they bought it for 50. They want to double their money. We'll say, Ed, we're going to give you $200. Why? Because if we do this and double pay you, you're going to remove this off our credit report. You're going to be responsive to her. When it goes back on her credit report again, you're going to pull it off again. You're going to answer our phone calls, and you're going to treat it with dignity. So she got an 80% discount. He got a 20% profit. Everybody won. That comes off. That's another 30 points. So now you're up 70 points. We then ask somebody making less than $60,000 a year. Think about the support workers here. Have you heard of EITC? What's that? Congratulations. So if you work, you get earned income tax credit. If you're making $38,000, $40,000 a year, have 2 children, Ed, the government owes you $4,000 cash. Please, everybody, listen to me here, because if it doesn't apply to you, it applies to somebody in your family.
No, yeah.
Okay, listen to this. They owe you $4,000 cash. Think about Christmas now. Think about New Year's. Okay, it's retroactive for 3 years.
Really?
I want to say that for those in the back of the room who need to hear it again. That's $12,000. Who doesn't need $12,000? Pay off that car note. Get current on your rent or your mortgage. Send your kid to college. Whatever the thing is. Start a business, a side business, whatever the thing is. But it's your money. And $20 billion a year goes back to the federal treasury every year because folks who qualify for that never ask for it. That's what we do. That's just a sampling of what we do, and we give you your dignity back.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I sense we're going to have no problem getting those classrooms filled up in the new year as we start to roll out Operation Hope into the workplace. There's another initiative, and by the way, if any of you don't know this, John's also coming quite the talk show regular. He's a regular on Squawk Box and CNBC, and I see you more on TV than I see you in person. So I'm always sending him texts after he gets on. He does a great job in getting that message.
And I'm pitching for Delta when I'm there too. I don't let anybody disrespect Delta.
Amen on that. But I know another big initiative is going outside of Delta, because another part of our responsibility is our community. How do we bring greater influence back into the community? For the people we have, obviously our top priority, but our suppliers, our partners, raising new jobs, new opportunities, and you've launched. And congratulations to you at the Global Forum, the 1 Million Black Initiative in terms of new businesses.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that, and what can we do at Delta? Because I know we're interested in trying to provide our hand in lending you support in that initiative.
And see, this is what I mean, everybody. The interview could have been over. It's like, all right, John, that was nice. I got an airline to run, but here he is leaning in again. You heard me say earlier that there's 30 million businesses in America. 9% of those are black businesses. By the way, business is the royalty of this country. When America became who she is, we didn't bring the royal pedigrees and the titles over here. Business and entrepreneurship became the royal class, and we literally created celebrity in North America as our form of our royalty. That's where celebrity came from.
Yep.
And so how do you build wealth? How do you create jobs? Business and entrepreneurship. Delta was a small company at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Every big company was a small one. So 30 million businesses, 9% of those black businesses, 96% of those businesses don't have an employee, can't create wealth. And I decided I wanted to change that. So I partnered with Shopify, the second largest e-commerce company in America. They made their largest philanthropic commitment in their history, $130 million over 10 years.
Wow.
To create 1 million new black businesses in America. It's going to go from 2020 to 2030. I call this the third Reconstruction period. And we are very serious about creating a third of all businesses in this country. And by the way, because of COVID, 41% of all businesses are sidelined that are black and don't have the capital. So what we do with that is you come into a financial coaching program. We give you entrepreneurship training, small business training, credit score training. You graduate, become Hope certified. Shopify gives you a free domain name, free internet search, domain name search, free domain name, free payment system, free storefront, free payment system, free delivery system through Shopify. You make your first sale, they finance your sale, a credit line. We are then going to have professionals, accountants, bankers, insurance professionals, IT professionals, business management, to serve as like a special forces team to put their arms around this new prospective owner, to give them the mental and support, the infrastructure girth to be a real business and not busyness.
Right.
And Shopify made a commitment. We've got some other major companies coming up, but when you called me, I was particularly inspired because you spend billions every year.
We do.
And it's easy for you to plug, a vendor into this program, or have vendors that are already in here be further supported through our program. And that's something I know you and I are still, and your team are still working through, but I am proud to know that in the future we'll be making some kind of subsequent announcement together there. And a little birdie told me that you actually might be using some of your talent to volunteer.
We are. We're already committed to that. So we're going to be in our supply chain team. Heather Ostis, who leads that group, is committed to providing part of that, as you say, that SWAT team to go around helping the black entrepreneurs start and get their leg up, the counseling, the coaching, the insight, the leads that they need, and we're really thrilled with that. And I know it's only the start, because what we want to do is we want to spawn off many new businesses here, and that's how we're going to change the outcomes for so many within the black community, to try to give them the opportunity to create their own generational wealth.
And when you do it, other companies will do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of questions over here, and I think, as I said, we could go on for an extended period of time, our conversation, but I think we need to go over to Kira and Trevor and see what the chat's going on, and some insights are going on. Yeah, there's Kira.
So we'll just start by saying among the many comments, there are lots of testimonials similar to what you shared, John. So we've seen, thanks to Operation Hope, I was able to purchase my first home a year ago. Thanks to Operation Hope, I'm free of credit card debt as of last August. Ooh. So we clearly know that our investments in this area are working well for our employees. You talk a lot, John, about companies needing to evaluate their budgets. You can see that we're investing in this for the wellness of our employees. But where else can companies and individuals reimagine their investments to really promote equity and inclusion in the workplace?
That's a great question. So I would encourage, I'm going to give a company answer, a small business answer, and my personal answer. The company answer is look at your About Us page. So make sure that you're reflecting diversity and inclusion in your About Us page, your management, your board. Look at your budget. In other words, and that one in BB is an example of that. Where are you spending money? You don't have to spend more money. Where are you spending that money? How are you allocating your budget? Look at your balance sheet, and your budget is very powerful. So for a major company, and then I would say for companies, extend the table and add a seat. And this is a Stephanie Rule quote. I want to give her credit for it. It's a great quote. Extend the table and add a seat. So we're not talking about taking away from my white brothers and sisters. This is a misnomer. You can extend the table. We're growing the economy. We're not cutting up a poverty pie. We're expanding more empowerment pie. The GDP is growing in America every year, and that's how you create more opportunities for all. That's why Atlanta works. For the small business answer is what I've done. So when I started the Promise Homes Company 3 years ago, I owned no assets, and now I own 700 homes in Atlanta as an affordable housing and workforce renter, landlord. And 4% of my vendors were minority vendors when I started the company. Now it's 44% today. So is that the fact that 44% of my vendors are black and brown and women? Is that an accident, or because I own the company and I've said this is important? Probably the latter, right? So we got to live your values. And again, I'm growing the company, so no one mainstream is hurting because of what I'm doing. We're expanding opportunity, and I'm going to continue to grow that company, hopefully to $1 billion in assets. And the more homes I have, the more contracts I have, the more opportunity is for everybody. And you got to decide whether you want 100% of nothing or 10% of something, right?
I like that.
And I think on an individual basis, who's your doctor? Who's your lawyer? Who's your accountant? Who's your dentist? Who are the professionals? Who do you go to get your shoes shined for? Whatever. Who are you contracting with in your daily life? Who's your landscape company? These are not just money decisions, they're moral decisions. Mm-hmm. And so everybody can be the change they want to see in the world. Let's assume you say, I don't have any money, but I've got some time and some expertise. You can lean into Boys and Girls Club, lean into the Urban League, there's a bunch of great organizations, Red Cross, lean into Operation Hope. Give us some time bank talent. You can do it from home. You can, let's make Zoom meaningful. Use it to help somebody else empower their lives, and then get back on a Delta plane. So that's the answer to that question.
Our next question is actually for Ed. Ed, this summer you made some very bold commitments that included measurable goals towards increasing diversity and inclusion here at Delta. Can you give us an update on what we've achieved so far and what your thinking is on how we get there moving forward?
Yeah. So we have made some significant statements, and I first and foremost want to give Kira credit because she's been my partner on this journey, and continue to lean on her to help me continue to push our company's agenda forward with people like John and many other people throughout our organization and our community. This year has been a year of awakening, yeah. I would say. It's been a year of awakening. It's been a year of learning. It's been a year of reflection and understanding the purpose that we have in society. It's been a year of coming to understand we are the largest employer, as you say, in Atlanta, yeah. in the state of Georgia. Yeah. We have responsibility that's far outside the walls of this company. Yeah. It truly is our responsibility. And there's too many leaders in corporate America these days that put walls and define around what their space is, mm-hmm. and think it's someone else's responsibility to take care of the community and other opportunities. And I'm really proud of the team at Delta that stepped out and said, no, we're going to follow you in this mission, in this march, to understand how Delta can bring the breadth of Delta to change the face of Atlanta, to change the face of our country, and by the way, our world, once we start to fly internationally again. We've been very public with our commitments about hiring and opportunities for our Black brethren. It's something that we've got a big gap between the leadership of the company and the individual employees who do the hard work, as you say, that build, that create the opportunity for us. There's two groups I especially have become very close to over this last 6 months. First, the members of BOLD, and I want to give Sean Cole credit and a shout out, as well as all the members, the leaders of BOLD. For any of you that are not in BOLD, that you're a Black employee, I encourage you to join BOLD. I meet with the group at least once a month. I've said publicly it's one.
Or
of
if you think you're Black, you can join.
You think I'm Black, guy? Then you're turning me into one, John. The thing I love about those meetings, and I've said it's one of my favorite meetings of the month, because I go and I learn.
Yeah.
Most meetings I go to, I have to kind of decide or provide input or perspective, but they've given me the freedom to go and listen and learn about what it means to be Black in today's world. And it's stuff that we should have been more aware of, but we were too busy in the past. And it's not something that came naturally. Yeah. And we had to stop and listen. And it's a great group, and I was having fun with them at the last meeting, because the first time I assembled them to come educate me, it was about 10 people. We did it in one of our boardrooms here outside my office, and they were all kind of a little nervous and not sure if they could really talk, not sure if I wanted to listen, not sure why they were being summoned, and you could feel the awkwardness and the tension at the time. And we have come so close over these last relatively short period of time, 6 months, where it's a fun, you see the pride in our employees saying, wow, I'm starting to make a difference, and that difference is being felt in every division across the company, their divisional leaders and the support efforts and the opportunities are really starting to open up. And we're having the honest dialogue about what we can do to help each other. You know, as I've told them, this is about family.
That's right.
This is about family.
That's
and
right.
We're one family.
And they feel seen.
Yeah.
They feel seen by you.
They do. And when you use family, and you talk, to me, it's personal.
Yes.
It's my responsibility to understand them.
And family gets in fights, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, every good marriage is made of constructive friction, right?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. And again, here you are just giving a straight ahead answers, unprompted, no notes. You're just talking from your heart. You just mentioned something I think is so important, though, Ed. You know, I'm going to say this, you can't, but I really think that this has been prophetic this year. I mean, God has a sense of humor, and coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous, as I said earlier. What's the chances in 3 months you'd have a global health pandemic that is worse than the last 125 years, I think since the Spanish flu, I think, an economic crisis that is worse on unemployment since the Great Depression, not here at Delta, but everywhere else, and a 400-year-old social justice reckoning on Black America within 3 to 4 months at the same time. And it's such that it set us down and stopped us so that everybody was watching TV when that handheld video camera of George Floyd hit the screen of a man being assassinated essentially on television, lynched on television. What's the chances of that? What's the chances of that? Think about this. Mm-hmm. We were all stopped watching. It wouldn't have happened in 2019, 2018. Would have been, everybody would have been, oh, what's that on TV? Tell me about it later. I'm busy. And Doug McMillan, who I'm going to talk to after this, are both of our friends, CEO of Walmart, another great leader. He asked me to come to a racial equity conversation. Huh? Doug, you're white, I'm black. I think I know racial, I'm black. He said, no, humor me, just come and, did this for 2 days. He sat there the whole time for 2 days. We sat there and I'm learning so much, as you said. And I'm black and I'm learning, right? And at the end of it, they did a survey. All the white folks did a survey and all the black folks. When do you think about being white? Answer. Or what do you think about being white? I'm instantly trusted. I have immediate credibility. No one questions me. It's my world, basically. When do you think about being white? Never. Black people. What do you feel like about being black? I've got to have resiliency. I've got to double down. I got to get up early, stay up late. I got to work hard. I've got to be emotionally strong. I've got to be spiritually fit. This is internal. This is external. When do you think about being black? All the time. Every 28 minutes. It's exhausting. Here you go. Here you are. I never think about being white. Mm-hmm. I think about being black every 28 minutes, right? You get pulled over by the police. It doesn't matter what car you're driving or what income you have. You better get your attitude right. Mm-hmm. I have a whole script when I get pulled over. Mm-hmm. I look at the guy's name. How you doing, Officer Mr. Jones? I hope you have. Thank you so much for your service. I appreciate. I'm sure I did something wrong. What was it? My job is get him to relax. Mm-hmm. I'm not your problem. No one else has to do that. Only black people have to do that. Mm-hmm. So but everybody wants to have these conversations now. Yeah. That wasn't the case before this. Yeah. We know that we're better. We know now that we now know there's a cancer on this incredible, amazing experiment called America. Yeah. And we are committed to solving it because this is not a death sentence. It's not a reboot. It's a reset. Mm-hmm. And I want everybody watching this to know that you don't have to be Ed Bastian to make a difference. Mm-hmm. You can make a difference right where you are. You can reach somebody, teach someone, mentor someone, be the change you want to see in the world. When I get on that Delta flight, from the time I hit the curb to the time I get on that plane, I see smiles and how are you doing? We're gonna the entire way. I feel like I'm meeting a shareholder because like they're acting like they own it.
They do, and they do own it, and they take that responsibility. Absolutely. Kira?
I think we've acknowledged that this is a unique moment in time. And one thing we've been talking about is language. And John, you have an interesting way of talking about giving charity versus infusing capitalism. But one thing our group is interested in hearing you talk about is equity versus equality. Equity has now become the forefront of our strategy here and accelerating things. Can we just hear from you as a thought leader in this space on how you define equity?
That you're not broke. Start there. On a serious note, no one washes rental cars. I mean, 100% of the in-place, in-neighborhood murders, police shootings by blacks, unfortunate shootings by blacks, in some cases murders, at the hands of police, were in 500 credit score neighborhoods. 100%. George Floyd was in a 500 credit score neighborhood. Low levels of home ownership, low levels of small business ownership, low job creation. As Van Jones has said, the best way to stop a bullet is a job. I mean, what would have happened if Steve Jobs, who was a Jordanian immigrant, who was rejected by his grandfather, so the white lady who was having a relationship with his father didn't want to claim him, so to force the daughter to put him up for adoption. Steve Jobs gets passed to this one affluent family who rejects him for adoption. He goes to the backup family, which happened to be a middle-class family in the Silicon Valley named the Jobs family. That's his adopted name. He goes, and around the corner is a guy named Wozniak, who happens to be a computer genius. Mm-hmm. And so goes the story of Apple. Genius. Now, Steve Jobs was not a brilliant engineer, he's a brilliant marketer, great salesman. He changed our whole life, and his family became squillionaires. But if he had been dropped off in the south side of Chicago, adopted by a single parent household there where the lady is working 2 jobs and he's no father at home, that same brilliance, with him left with no mentoring, he'd become the biggest drug dealer on the south side of Chicago, and maybe dead by the age of 25. We'd be rock, paper, scissors, not technology and touchscreens. We gotta realize there's brilliance everywhere. And we should be looking for equity contributors everywhere, that we're better together. When I mentioned that $16 trillion hit on GDP because of black racism, that's a levy on all of us. That's a tax on American GDP. Absolutely. So I want everybody to get that equity is something that we all can do. I can't change how you feel about me, but I can change how I feel about you. I can raise my self-esteem, my confidence, my belief in myself through my credit score, my opportunity, my ownership, I'm a homeowner, I'm a small business owner, I feel great. You can say whatever you want about me. I still can buy and sell you on Tuesday. So I think that we have got to change the narrative here. From red and blue, as I said, and black and white, to how do we get some more green. It's the get it done party.
Amen.
That's all the time we have for questions. So now I think we'd like John and Ed for you to take a minute for your closing remarks.
You don't want to hear any more from me. I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
All right, I'm going to give you a break for a minute because there's something I want to talk to the Delta family about, and I'll close with you, John, and thank you for this great hour that just flew on by. I want to thank you all for what you've been through this year. This year has been remarkable on so many ways. It's been horrific. The challenges, the heartbreak, the loss that we've all experienced, the pain, the suffering that we've seen that we can't seem to shake, but also the heroics of the Delta team, taking good care of yourselves, your families, our customers, our business, our future. We're going to exit this pandemic in a stronger way than we went into it. Maybe not financially at first. It's going to take some time, and the vaccines are right around the corner, and the travel starting next year should be a much better outlook than what we've been through this year. But what people think about us, what our customers say about us, our net promoter scores, the customer satisfaction, customers like John. John sends me his happy pictures when he's on a Delta flight, and he does it because we're good friends, but he would do it anyway because that's how he feels about you, about the great work you're doing. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that we've had to do. It doesn't matter what role in the company we've had, the volunteerism, the tens of thousands of you who have taken time off without pay to be able to protect jobs. The fact that we can get through this without a single job being lost is really remarkable. That's not me, that's you. And I want to thank you all for what you're doing in that. But I have one more ask before the year is out. And that ask is that you double down with the safeguarding around the virus. We are in the worst 3 months coming forward that this nation will ever see with respect to a public health epidemic. The virus is active. It's active in every state of the nation. It's active in our communities, and we can protect ourselves. And we know how to protect ourselves. First and foremost is get tested. Yep. We are testing. I've been tested 3 times this week. I made this guy get tested today, before he came to see me here, right? I mean, we need to take testing seriously. And
a HUG-compliant test.
Absolutely. And every opportunity that you have, and we want everyone in the company to be able to be tested at least weekly. I talked last night with Dr. Redfield, the director of the CDC. He called me on something else, but we were talking. You know, he told me that if everyone were to be tested on a weekly basis, this epidemic would be done in no time at all, because we'd spot the disease, we'd sit it down, we'd protect ourselves from it. So please avail yourselves to testing resources. And if you have a hard time getting tested as regularly as you need, contact me and I'll make sure that you have those facilities. But with the Abbott test, the rapid test, the at-home test, tests that we're doing in the airports, there's really no excuse for anyone not being able to be tested on a regular basis. I ask that you continue to use masks, that you be vigilant about masks. We're all tired of these masks. We're tired of distance. We want to come together. The vaccine development is incredibly promising, and I believe 6 months from now, we're going to be back, not the way we were, we're going to be stronger for the experience, but it's going to be different. But to get from here to there requires that we all take good care of each other during this journey. So distance, washing hands, wearing your masks, getting tested, all the safety protocols that you have in place. Upcoming Christmas holidays are the danger zones. We know the disease isn't being spread in the workplace. I'd say 80% of the people within the company, and we've got large numbers of people every single day that are turning positive. Those positives are from outside the walls of Delta. When you're around people that you're familiar with, people that you're comfortable with, but you don't know where they've been because of the asymptomatic spread. They may be transmitting a disease, and they are transmitting diseases to you that you don't even know. And when we're done here, I'm gonna ask these guys to play a clip from Dr. Carlos Del Rio, who's the lead epidemiologist over at Emory, and he's been my medical mentor through this process, talking about an episode that he had, and I'll let him explain it. It'll break your heart when you hear about it. But everything you can do to finish strong. The goal line is getting that vaccine and getting it distributed and ultimately killing off this virus. But we all have to finish strong as a company, because I want us all to be able to cross that finish line together. So thank you for that.
And actually, you just inspired me. Can I say one last thing?
Please.
So on that point, my auntie, Emma, from East St. Louis, 80 years old, called me and said she wanted to go to a funeral. And I said, Auntie Emma, I love you, and I'm very respectful as your nephew. But let me make this clear. You go to that funeral, you may end up being in the next one. You need to sit yourself at home, and this is the one time I want you to use virtual, okay? And she didn't go. But that's where that's places like that is where it's spreading. And we get emotional. No. We are taking care of each other when we take care of ourselves in that way, and respect that we need to distance ourselves from the others that we love.
Yes.
And so, as you said, we had to take this extraordinarily seriously in the next 3 months. Second thing I want to say is, I said a lot about black this and black that, but the NAACP was co-founded by white people. The Urban League, Operation Hope, Boys and Girls Club, all the organizations that we admire, co-founded by blacks and whites. We're better together, and we have got to knock off this silliness. The last thing I'll say is that this conversation is so inspiring and a great way to end the year, because this is what happened in the 60s. Yeah. The 60s, it got integrated because of business, not because of the government. The government was actually the problem. It was the business leaders in every town that took down the whites only signs and said, knock it off. And they forced the mayors and the governors to do the right thing. And here we go again.
Absolutely. Great. You want to provide closing comments, John?
I think I just did.
Okay.
Call Operation Hope. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Joanne Smith. Thank you, Mapes. Thanks all the heroes and sheroes. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, all you Delta ambassadors. You are a walking example of class, substance, and care in the world, and you should feel proud to work for an airline like Delta.
And John, I'm proud to call you a friend and a brother, and thank you for all you're doing to hold me up during this time. This is a time we've all had to hold each other up, through this year, because we didn't know where the year was going.
Yeah.
We didn't know, and so those notes of kindness, and every couple of weeks, John will text me a smiley face or just keep the faith message that keeps me going. I thank you for that constant prod and that opportunity to be great for all and to look forward. 2021 has great promise.
Yeah.
2021 is going to be a year of revival. I really believe that. It's going to be a year of difference. We're going to be more resilient. We're going to be stronger. But it's going to be a year that we all take what we've learned from what we've been through, and it's changing us.
Yeah.
And that change isn't going to stop.
That's right.
That change is only going to get stronger as we go through. But we need everyone to be able to get there safely together. So thank you, John. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Hope you get some time with your families. Take time for yourselves. Focus on your mental well-being. Financial well-being will come in the new year, and John's going to help us with all that. But you're a great group of people, and I could not be more proud to be part of this family.
Amen.
Delta's really doing exactly what I wish every employee would do, which is offer testing to their employees once a week. Because one of the things we've learned with this virus is that there is asymptomatic transmission. So I could be infected, I could be transmitting to others, primarily in my household or at my place of work, and I may not know it. And it's only through testing that I know it. And you have no idea how many patients I've seen that it all started with an asymptomatic person, usually a young person in the family, but could be an older person who's asymptomatic. They come into the home, and then they infect somebody else in the family, or they infect everybody in the household, and then one of them ends up in the hospital. I have this case right now of a grandmother in their late 60s who's really critically in the ICU. It all started with an asymptomatic transmission at the time of Thanksgiving, when a young kid came back from college. It was infected. They didn't know it. They all sat down. They all had dinner. And now the grandmother's in the ICU. Had that kid been tested before they came into the household, we would have prevented all those infections. We would have prevented that lady from being in the ICU. So if my employee was offering me testing every week, I'll take it. I tell people to celebrate in small groups within your bubble. In other words, the people you've been living with, that you know have been around with you. And if you're going to be around other people, be sure that it's less than 10 people. If you can't get everybody tested before you do it, have a gathering, have it outside. Have people separate when they're eating. Make sure that when they're eating, which is when they take their mask off, they're not close to each other. And then when they decide to continue chatting, put their mask on.